A dramatic showdown between Egypt's military and the ousted president. Once again, millions of citizens have taken to the streets in Cairo in dueling protests. But is this a people's coup or one strong-armed by the military? Tonight, President Obama met with his national security team as a key American ally stands on the brink of civil war. ABC's Alex Marquardt is covering the crisis in Egypt. Alex?
Juju, it's a tale of two cities here in Cairo tonight as we wait to see who makes the next move. President Morsi was ousted by the Egyptian military. A spokesman now tells us he's been arrested, that as hundreds of thousands of Egyptians celebrated his removal from power. Fireworks and jubilation erupted in Tahrir Square tonight as the military announced it dissolved Egypt's constitution and deposed President Mohamed Morsi after just 1 year in office. In a speech to the nation, the head of the military said they were responding to the calls of the people. The military also blamed Morsi for failing to unite Egyptians. President Morsi struck back, calling the military's moves unacceptable and arguing that he was legitimately elected. In a tweet, his office said, measures announced by the armed forces leadership represent a full coup, categorically rejected by all the free men of our nation. And in a video posted online, he ominously warned, whoever planned this wants to spill the blood of the Egyptian people. It was just 2.5 years ago that many of these same Egyptians were fighting to oust another president. Since then, Egypt has become so deeply polarized, there are worries that a civil war could tear the country apart.
Mohamed Morsi made a lot of mistakes, and I think a lot of the decisions that he made over his first year in office did give people real reason to question his intentions with respect to democracy and the Brotherhood's ability to play a democratic game.
The United States is watching events in Cairo closely. Egypt is one of the U.S.'s closest allies in the Middle East and one of the largest recipients of American dollars in foreign aid. Just 4 days ago, on the first anniversary of President Morsi's election, demonstrators gathered across the country to call for Morsi to step down and for new elections to be held. According to the military, these demonstrations turned into the largest protests in Egyptian history, with millions demonstrating across the country.
I want to send a message to President of Egypt, Mohamed Morsi Al-Ayad. You're not welcome here. Please get out.
We don't want any more the Muslims Brotherhood. We are not convinced with Mohamed Morsi, and we're going to stay on the street until he leaves.
Feeling the momentum, the protesters came out again the next day, hoping the military would take their side. The crowds were so big, the anger so strong, that the military gave Morsi a 48-hour deadline to answer the people's demands. When helicopters showed up over the rally in Tahrir Square, the crowd erupted in cheers. How do you feel about the army now issuing this ultimatum?
We're very happy, actually. It's one of the best things that has happened in Egypt. We've been looking forward for it for almost a year now.
The army, you feel, is on your side?
Yes. Not only the army, even the police academy, they're all with us. And it's a great support for all Egyptians.
You'd like to see the army take over from the president?
Yes, we do.
If we see that he is trying, we will be on his back. But he is not even trying. He is doing everything for his Muslim Brotherhood group, not for Egypt, not for Egyptians.
Since Morsi was elected a year ago, these Egyptians say their lives have only gotten worse.
Order has not returned back to the streets. It's actually been much worse. The country is basically not functioning. I mean, there's no security on the streets. The economy is doing badly. I have much less purchasing power than I used to. My business is not doing well.
Tourism, once a lifeblood of the Egyptian economy, has plummeted. The Nile River now empty of the traditional feluccas that once ferried tourists up and down the river. Gamal Abdelghani told us he used to give 20 rides a day. On this day, it was his first. How much money did you make this week?
This week? This now is 10 pounds.
Just 10 pounds? Less than $2?
No working.
The anti-Morsi faction also accused the Muslim Brotherhood, which Morsi belongs to, of imposing their Islamist values on Egyptian life and trying to control the country.
They were doing it bit by bit. They were changing us. They were changing the way we dress up, the way we talk, the way we even deal within the society.
Clashes have so far left 40 people dead in the last 4 days of protest. In a defiant speech last night, Morsi rejected the ultimatum and accused remnants of the old regime of hijacking the revolution and causing the unrest. Today, he let the ultimatum expire. As the hours passed with no word from the military, confusion and tension mounted.
You have no idea who's running the country right now?
Not right now, at this moment, we have no idea.
Then came the announcement and an eruption on that famous square, the birthplace of one Egyptian revolution and now perhaps another one.
This is the moment we've been waiting for 2 years and a half. For every single blood that have been shed in this country, we've been waiting for this moment.
But while many celebrated, Morsi's supporters responded angrily. After working in the shadows for more than 80 years, the once outlawed Muslim Brotherhood isn't going down without a fight.
There's been a lot of very angry rhetoric, talk about the Brotherhood martyring themselves for the sake of democratic legitimacy. And so I think there is a real fear about violent opposition to this military takeover.
For days, Muslim Brotherhood officials have warned of bloody repercussions if the military tried to step in. Earlier today, a top official said that if Morsi were ousted, they would flood the streets with supporters. So even as celebrations continue late into the night on Tahrir Square, Egypt is bracing itself for more bloody violence. Juju?
Our thanks to Alex Marquardt in Cairo. And now we turn to ABC's Global Affairs anchor, Christiane Amanpour, who joins me now with some valuable context. Thanks so much for being here.
It's good to be here.
Well, you were there in Tahrir Square as democracy took shape, and it was an emotional, historic moment. And yet you can't watch the events of the last few days and not wonder, is democracy failing in the Middle East?
You know, Egypt is the bedrock of the Middle East. What happens in Egypt is likely to happen around that region. So everybody's closely watching, and of course it's a massively important US ally. It is a very young democracy. There are no political parties. That is why politics is happening in the streets. So you have President Morsi, who was elected, but is viewed to have failed to deliver on his promises. He didn't give them the economic wherewithal that they wanted. There's a lack of security, and he's viewed as tacking too far to Islamist base. So the other people who are in the streets are saying, no, hang on. We are now giving you a vote of no confidence with our feet, with our voices, with our bodies in the streets. And that's what's happening right now.
And it's a tense standoff, and yet the U.S. is largely silent on the issue. What's fascinating is this diplomatic dance that's going on as to whether or not this was technically a military coup.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And you're going to see the U.S. and Western officials, democracies, are going to have a very hard time reacting to this. And they're going to twist themselves in contortions trying to figure out not to call it a coup. Because this would affect U.S. aid. It would affect our relations with Egypt. And of course, it's a very important place. But what's really fascinating, and you'll see this explode all over social media, the anti-Morsi protesters are on a massive campaign to say this was not a coup. The military did not step in. They are merely enacting the will of the people. Look, it's a Supreme Court judge who's going to be the interim. But let's face it, the interim leadership is going to be umpired by the military. So no matter what you want to call it, the military is in charge right now. And the question is what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, and next month.
Fascinating to watch events unfold, and always grateful to have your insights. Thanks, Christiane.
Thank you, Juju.